a story about two families who are brought together by the return of one family's son. In the opening scene, we see a montage of the Kimber family, when the brothers were just little boys, enjoying life with their mother. Then we're taken to the present, where the boys have grown into men, and sadly, their mother has passed away. Guy tries contacting his brother and father, but instead of answering, Beagle and Easy let it go to voicemail. They sit down to enjoy some breakfast and discuss what type of cereal they like. On the other side of town, we see the Kaminsky family. Georgia's mother Violet is trying to make a name for herself as a photographer, and also bring awareness to her daughter's disease. Georgia has Friedreich's ataxia, a disease that attacks the neurological system. Violet asks her to keep a pose as she tries to capture the best frame. Despite struggling, Georgia fights hard to stay still. Luckily, her Nana Marg arrives just in time to take her out for some fun. Violet helps her get down the stairs, and as she gets to the car, her mother suggests she takes the wheelchair. Georgia protests, so Marg steps in, letting Violet know that she doesn't need it. Getting in the car, they speed off before Violet can annoy them any further. We're taken to the local outdoor market, where a lot of families gather and sell some of their goods. Two boys come to Marg's booth and want to buy the photos of Georgia, but once she tells them the price, they start giving unnecessary comments. Luckily, Easy overhears the two boys and helps get them away. Marg is surprised to see him, and he informs her that they're only there to sell his late wife's stuff. Georgia and Beagle meet, and they seem to be hitting it off. He lets her know that he works at the cafeteria at the high school she goes to, and she informs him that the food is not good. As they're enjoying the warm sun and nature while trying to make some money, Guy arrives in town. He gets to the house, only to find it empty. Looking around, he sees his mother's helper, but nothing else of hers is around. Looking up, he sees a hole in the ceiling, so he decides to fix it. Back at the fair, Marg asks Easy to keep an eye on her booth so she can take Georgia to the bathroom. Easy lets her know that her booth is safe, and even suggests Beagle helps them out. Grabbing a hold of Georgia, they start walking to the bathroom when Georgia asks why they're selling girls' clothes. Beagle explains that they're his mother's but struggles to admit that she's no longer with them. Feeling uncomfortable, he changes the subject by asking about her photos. Georgia informs him that her mother takes her photos because she wants to become a famous photographer. They arrive at the bathroom stalls, so Beagle takes the dog and waits for them outside. Georgia hurries out of the bathroom before Marg can join her, so she can ask Beagle to come over in the evening. Luckily for them, it starts raining, so Marg runs back to the booth to gather the stuff. As he helps her get back once again, she explains that she needs help with her homework, claiming that the disease makes it hard for her to get work done. He agrees, but becomes curious about her disease. She lets him in on it, but he makes a comment on her speech, comparing it as if she's drunk. She finds it funny when he apologizes for his unnecessary comment. The rain starts pouring as they slowly approach the booth. Assuming that he doesn't want to come, she lets him know that it's fine if he doesn't. But he assures her that he'll be there. Beagle and Easy head home, and as they arrive at the house, a piece of their roof falls on the car. Hurrying out, they see Guy working on the roof, and are surprised that he's back. Guy climbs down to let them know that he got the mail in the morning, while asking for what happened to his mother. Guy hasn't seen his family in 5 years, so when Beagle informs him that their mother has passed away, Guy's guilt grows even bigger. Easy is excited to see his son after such a long time, but the same can't be said about Beagle. They head inside, and Beagle prepares lunch for them as they catch up. Guy starts poking fun at Beagle for not having a girlfriend, and it only makes him angrier, so he tells him to keep his opinion to himself. As they sit by the table, Guy pulls out a few CDs for them, but Beagle refuses to take them. He reminds his father that his food is getting cold, so they sit in silence as they eat. To spend some quality time with his sons, Easy takes his boys to the bar where they can have a couple of drinks. Guy offers to pay, so they sit by a table as Guy gets the drinks. Many local people are excited to see Guy, even the bartender. They catch up at the bar, making Beagle even more annoyed. Finally, Guy comes to the table with beers and another bowl of peanuts. As he sits down, they make a toast to his return, even though Beagle doesn't even look him in the eyes. He heads to the bathroom, leaving Easy and Guy together. As a true father, Easy recognizes the pain on Guy's face, so he makes sure to tell him that everything is fine, despite what happened. However, Guy still feels guilty for not being there. To make themselves feel better, he suggests playing some music before heading to the music box. As he's choosing some tunes, one of the girls who walked in walks up to him. It is his old friend Stacy, who seems excited to see him. Not able to hold it in, he asks about his ex-girlfriend Stephanie. Stacy smiles awkwardly as she tells him that Stephanie cuts her hair. After cleaning his bloody teeth, Beagle comes back to the table, only for Easy to ask him where Guy is. Just outside Stephanie's salon, we see a drunk Guy waiting for her to finish. As she exits the salon, he follows her to her house across the street, only to make himself known at her front porch. She jumps out of fear, and he apologizes for scaring her while finding it funny. She asks what he's doing at her door, and he doesn't answer, but asks whether she's going to let him in. She tells him no, and he has a hard time understanding why, so she reminds him of the 3 years he disappeared after asking her to marry him. He apologizes for that as well, and as he continues to beg her, she decides to let him outside by slamming the door on him. While one brother is struggling, luck seems to be on the other one's side. Beagle arrives at Georgia's house, and after struggling to find the entrance, he knocks on the door. Georgia seems to be bored out of her mind during the therapy, so when she sees Beagle at the door, she says his name excitedly. Everyone's attention turns to him, so he decides to introduce himself. They end up lying that he's a professor at the school who has come to help Georgia with her lessons, given that he's much older than her. After getting the approval from her mother, they head upstairs to her room. Helping her sit on the bed, he shyly stands in the room, not knowing what to do. She asks him to shut the door, and once he does, she asks him to sit next to her. They start with him reading and her answering questions, actually getting some work done. Concerned, her mother comes to her door, only to eavesdrop on their conversation. When she hears that they're actually learning, she feels at ease and decides to leave them to it, unaware of her daughter's true intentions. As Beagle continues reading, he notices that Georgia is staring at him, so he asks her what she's looking at. She tells him that he can kiss her if he wants, but then starts to kiss him first. Over at Marg's house, as she's cleaning up her dolls, she hears her doorbell ringing. Opening the door, she is greeted by Easy, who's brought some fresh meat for them to cook dinner together. So in the kitchen, as he's preparing the steak, she is cutting up some onions. Trusting her instincts, she asks about his son Beagle and the way he is looking at her niece Georgia. Easy chuckles as he assures her that Beagle has no game at all. However, something completely opposite is happening in Georgia's room. The two of them are on the bed making out when Violet starts calling out to Georgia. Fearful, Beagle flies off the bed to straighten up. Wanting to go all the way with him, she tells him to come back the following night so they can go somewhere together. Beagle agrees and hurries out, but Violet stops him. She makes it known that she will be contacting the school to tell them how great of a teacher they've got, the one that comes on a Saturday night. Beagle is the opposite of threatened, he just runs out. Guy still blames himself for what happened to his mother, so he decides to visit her grave. Coming up to the graveyard, he sees a sign that shows trespassing, so he slides down the wall and lights a cigarette. In the morning, he seems to be in better spirits, so he prepares breakfast. Beagle is the first one he sees, and while he says good morning, he rolls his eyes at the sight of the greasy breakfast Guy's made. Instead, he decides to have cereal and keep his thoughts to himself. Unlike him, Easy is happy to see eggs for breakfast, and even complains about Beagle not letting him eat eggs. He reminds him of his cholesterol, but Easy throws his middle finger in the air, saying that when his boys are with him, nothing matters. Silence falls as they enjoy their meals, so Easy decides to ask Guy how long he's going to stay. For the first time, Guy decides to be honest and admit that he's not doing well in his music career, revealing that they've only sold 15 copies. Beagle can't help but laugh in his face, but luckily Guy finds it funny as well. Violet jumps for joy when she finds out that her work will be published in the Amateur Foundation. Georgia congratulates her, and Violet tries to get her to do another photo shoot. Tired, Georgia asks whether they could skip the shoot, and as Violet begins to get loud, Merg walks through the door, saving the day yet again. Georgia lets Violet know that she's not in the mood for photos, before heading to Marg. She accidentally slips and falls to the ground. As they help her get up, Violet tells her that she's not going anywhere without a wheelchair. Georgia gets defensive and tells her to stop reminding her that she's ill. On their ride to the salon, Marg notices that Georgia is unlikely to be quiet, so she asks for what's on her mind. Sex, she says blatantly. She then continues to ask Marg everything about it. While it can be a beautiful thing, it for sure can get nasty, Marg explains. Curious, Georgia asks at what age she lost her virginity, and Marg is hesitant at first, but she ends up telling her. Marg had only been 15, which is the same age as Georgia, when she lost her virginity to a boy named Johnny. Noticing the smile on Georgia's face, Marg warns her not to get any ideas, since luck doesn't run in the family. Arriving at the salon, Marg helps Georgia sit down before she heads out, lying that she'll be going on a walk. Over at Easy's butcher shop, Beagle feeds the lovely dog some meat before he makes something special for Georgia. Stephanie asks Georgia what kind of haircut she would like, and because she has a date, she says she wants something sexy. As Stephanie cuts her hair, they start talking about the date, and Georgia reveals that she only wants to lose her virginity, and is not looking for love. Concerned, Stephanie warns her about having only one chance at it, and that she has plenty of time to lose it, but Georgia doesn't agree. Understanding her point of view because of her disease, Stephanie keeps it to herself. Using a couple of colors on a brick, Beagle gives it his all to make a painting resembling Georgia. While Georgia is getting her hair cut, Merg sneaks out to Easy's butcher shop. As she enters the shop, the guy working with Easy calls him over, only to be asked to go in the back. Easy and Marg exchange a couple of flirty looks, just like teenagers. However, they're unaware that Beagle is at the back of the shop. The poor dog comes to Beagle and whines for some more food, so Beagle decides to give him some more. As he walks in, he overhears his father complimenting Marg. But once he sees them share a kiss, he loses it. Not wanting to be seen, he runs back as anger and despair overcome him, heartbroken to see his father with another woman just a month after his mother passed. It comes to Beagle as a shock, just like George's new haircut. Coming out of the salon, we see Georgia with a pixie cut, completely the opposite of her long hair. Looking at the new masterpiece she has created, Stephanie wishes her good luck before going back to the salon. Shortly, Marg arrives to pick her up, and realizes that Violet is going to be upset with her. Everyone seems to be aiming for a change, and so is Stephanie. As Guy is playing his guitar in his room, she decides to pay him a visit and bring his old stuff back, to finally let go of what he did to her. Walking in, she sets the box down, and he is surprised to see her there. Looking around, she notices that the room is the same as when they used to date. Guy stays quiet, not really knowing how to react. She jokingly takes his bottle of liquor, and he tries to stop her. Giggling, she assures him that she won't drink it. They stand opposite of each other when silence falls, so Guy tries getting closer to her to compliment her tattoos. It's hard for her to look him in the eyes, so she looks at the ground as tears build up in her eyes. Inching closer to her, he tries to lean in for a kiss, but she turns her head. Finally, he tells her that he'll leave her alone if that's what she wants, but she kisses him instead. They start making out, as he apologizes profusely for disappearing. Romance isn't only on their radar, as we see Georgia getting ready for her date with Beagle. After dressing up, she makes sure to take protection. On the other side, we see Beagle angrily walking along the road, trying to come to terms with his emotions. Easy asks for him, given that he was supposed to help him slaughter a cow, but Guy offers to help, since Beagle is nowhere to be found. As they leave for the farm, Beagle returns home and gets ready for the date. After getting the scooter to work, Beagle decides to come clean with his father. As he arrives at the farm, he sees Easy and Guy debating on who's going to do the slaughter. Easy notices him and starts yelling at him for being late. Having had enough, Beagle tells him that he saw him with Marg, and expresses how upset he is. Guy chimes in, advising Easy to come clean. Confused, Beagle listens as Guy reveals that Easy's been seeing Marg for years. Easy tries defending himself, claiming that he would have never left his mother, regardless of anything. Beagle quickly realizes that all the times he cleaned his ill mother, wanting to help both her and Easy for not being able to see his wife in such a state, he was helping Easy cheat with Marg. Guy steps into Easy's defense, which only escalates into a fight between the brothers. They roll around the hay, as Beagle blames him for their mother's loss. He also mentions the fact that he didn't show up for 3 years, despite her not being well. Like the true coward he is, Easy gets into his car, and before he drives off, he drops the equipment for butchering. Beagle decides to go on his date, leaving Guy to do the dirty work. Georgia walks down the stairs slowly, ready to meet up with Beagle. Violet's partner is surprised at her haircut, but unlike Violet, he compliments her look. Shortly, Violet comes down the stairs, only to freak out at Violet's hair. She even asks about her outfit, so Georgia lets them know that she's going on a date with Beagle. Violet tells her that she's not allowed to go out with Beagle, because he's too old. As they're arguing whether she's going or not, Beagle arrives on his scooter. Seeing him outside, Georgia lets them know that she's going regardless, so Violet gives up. Helping her get on the scooter, he grabs the painting he made for her and hands it to Violet's partner, who threatens to beat him up if there's a hair missing on Georgia. Nothing seems to be bothering Beagle, as he's happy to go out with her. Taking out the rope, he ties them together so Georgia won't fall off, showing how thoughtful he is. Unlike her mother, when he notices her hair, he tells her that he loves it. As Violet paces back and forth, worrying about her daughter, her partner opens up the present from Beagle, only to see a portrait he painted of her. She calms down a bit, realizing that his intentions are pure. While Guy is cleaning up the blood all over himself, Easy decides to finally do the right thing. Driving to the resort, Georgie lets the spring breeze in as she lifts her hands, feeling free while forgetting all of her problems. They get to the resort and soon find a room. As they get in, Georgia comments on the smell of smoke, and they establish that both of them don't smoke. As they're getting to know each other, Easy decides to come clean to Marg. Walking up to her door, he rings the doorbell and she lets him in. Before he can say what he wants, she offers him a drink, and they drink together. Not wasting any more time, Easy confesses his love for her, and just as he asks her to marry him, Marg's phone rings. Answering the phone, Marg hears Violet panicking on the line while telling her about Beagle. Marg is so shocked that Georgia would go out with Beagle, so much so that she screams his name, making Easy jump from his seat. Luckily, Marg convinces Violet not to call the police, and as she hangs up the phone, she starts yelling at Easy for what his son has done. Calling him all kinds of names, she tells him that his son is not worthy of her niece, despite Easy trying to convince her otherwise. Finally, they settle on looking for them and head out immediately. As they're frantically searching, the lovebirds have no worry on their mind as they make out on the bed. Georgia senses the smell of animals, so she tells Beagle that something smells like a farm. He lets her know that it's probably him, so she suggests he takes a shower before things go any further. He gets in the shower, and she decides to get more comfortable. Getting out, he awkwardly stands at the door, as she assumes that he doesn't work out, given his slim figure. An awkward silence falls as he gets on the bed and scoots closer to kiss her. Both of them don't know what they're doing, but Georgia sticks to her plan as she puts a condom in his hand. Getting up, he admits that he can't do it, while nervously hugging himself. She asks whether he likes guys, and when he says no, she assumes that he doesn't want to sleep with a disabled girl. Luckily, he assures her that it's neither, as he nervously struggles to find the right words to say. He finally admits that he likes her, only for her to tell him that she only cares about losing her virginity. Not wanting to listen to him anymore, she asks him to leave, but he suggests they leave together. Georgia stays quiet, so he suggests getting some food for them to watch a movie together. She snaps, yelling at him to get out. He isn't the only brother who gets his heart broken, as Guy decides to visit Stephanie, only to see her happy with her husband and child. However, Beagle decides not to give up, and after spinning in a circle, he knocks on the door he just ran out of. She opens the door and he embraces her in a hug. They lay in bed naked and start kissing, which will lead to a wonderful night. After searching for a while, Easy decides to drive to the resort, and just as suspected, as he pulls in they see Beagle's scooter. Their date reminds them of the first time they slept together. While Mark finds it embarrassing and somewhat funny, it reminds Easy how bad he was towards his wife. In her last days, he admits not being able to look at her, but luckily Beagle was there to do his job. He realizes that Beagle is a bigger man than him, and stays, despite being scared. Tears fill his eyes as regret washes over him. Noticing, Mark suggests they stay in the car for a while, and he agrees. Making sure they have a great night, she calls Violet to let her know that Georgia is fine, and that she'll be spending the night. Worried, Violet admits that she doesn't know what to do with her, but Mark assures her that she's doing just fine. Seeing the girl he wanted to marry with another guy only makes Guy want to go to his mother. Skipping over the trespassing sign, he goes straight to his mother's grave. Sitting down, the pain, grief, anger, and sadness wash over him as he begins to sob. In the morning, Georgia is the one to wake up before Beagle, so when she sees him lying by her side, it makes her smile. Checking the time, she decides to wake him up so they're not late for school. She wants to get dressed, so she asks him to turn around. As he does, the events from the previous night start playing in his head, making him smile. Getting on the scooter, they wake Marg up, and when she sees them, she can't help but smile to herself. Not wanting to ruin their moment, she decides not to wake Easy up. However, Guy gets woken up by a kitten climbing on his face. Arriving at the school, Beagle helps Georgia get to the hall, and before they go their ways, they agree to see each other at lunch. He asks whether she wants something special, and she says that she wants him. Returning home, Beagle is met with Easy, and as he tries to walk past him, Beagle embraces him in a hug. Nothing is said, but much is understood, as the hug changes everything. Suggesting they eat something, Beagle asks what he wants, but Easy asks him to sit down and enjoy, as he and Guy will be making everything. Although they may struggle to make the food properly, it's good to see them getting along for the first time in a long time, similar to the past, when Beagle and Guy would surprise their mother in the kitchen.